Self-doubt is a dream killer. It keeps us trapped up in our heads, and we don't trust ourselves. And then we play small. Action is the only thing that's going to get us to where we want to go. And fear is a low vibe. It has us playing small, and oftentimes it just stops us from making the decision altogether.
You're never too busy, too tired, too old, or too anything to pursue your dreams. Welcome to the Distracted Dreamer podcast, where you'll learn how to move all those never-ending distractions aside and chase your dreams with confidence.
Well, hello. Welcome back to the Distracted Dreamer podcast. I am Carlene. I am your host, and I am so glad that you decided to tune in today. We're talking about something that has snuck up on me, and I've really had to do some work to dissect it and figure out how to get on with things. And I've been experiencing a lot of indecisiveness. Like, I'm constantly changing my mind. I'm fearful of making the wrong decisions. I'm afraid of disappointing people. I don't trust myself. And I have no idea what has triggered this onslaught of self-doubt. Because at the end of the day, that's what fear does. It makes us doubt ourselves. And the message, I think, is so valuable for all of us. And it's a lesson that I learn over and over again. And I feel like someone out there needs to hear this, and it might be you. So I feel as though I'm making decisions based out of fear. Can you relate to that? Or even worse, I'm not making any decision because of fear. So I'm fearful about different things that might happen. I'm fearful of hurting people's feelings, fearful of making the wrong decision. And the context of it really doesn't matter. What I really want to talk about is this concept of making decisions out of fear. And first of all, feeling fear when making big decisions, it's very normal. And most of us feel fear for really big decisions like changing jobs or moving to a new city. Those are really big decisions, and they're scary to make. But what about fear of making smaller, more inconsequential decisions? Well, I've got a great example to share with you. So one of my dreams this year is to create spaces for myself that bring me a sense of calm and peace. And we've been in our new home for a year now. And I really want to create these spaces one room at a time. But I got to tell you, my indecisiveness is really doing a number on me. I'm normally pretty certain of what I like and what feels good to me, but not this time. I want to get it perfect, and I'm doubting myself one paint swatch at a time. Is it too dark? Is it too much? What if my family doesn't like it? It's really important to me that they like the calm space that I want to create for myself. What? So keep in mind, the family that live with me, they're young adults, and they're not going to be here forever. So I don't know why I'm putting so much weight on what they think, because honestly, I don't even think they care. So what am I doing? And the fear is typically, at least it is for me, what if this doesn't work? What if this is the wrong decision? What will that mean? That's my fear. It's like I don't trust myself. And then my husband says, it's just paint. We can paint it again if you don't like it. But I don't want to make him paint again. See, I know me. I would live with something I don't like because I don't want to ask him to do that. I don't want to inconvenience him, even though he said he's good with that if that's what happens. All this uncertainty and fear, even about the little things, I logically know no one can make me feel a certain way. It's the stories that I'm telling myself. And these stories are all wrapped up in what we call self-doubt. All of this has gotten me thinking about, if I'm overthinking and hesitating about the color of the room or the rug or the chair I pick out, what is going to happen when I have a big decision to make? Have I entered another phase of chronically doubting myself at every turn? I don't want to be trapped in this habit of doubting myself when it comes to the big stuff, like, what's the next thing I should be doing in my business? What's mine and my husband's next chapter of retirement look like? How do I want to show up for my new grandbaby on the way? Self-doubt is a dream killer. It keeps us trapped up in our heads, and we don't trust ourselves. And then we play small. So today, we're going to talk about the 3 different self-doubt mind traps. And you will be able to identify which mind trap you're stuck in and how to get out of it. And I've even gone as far as to create a quiz for you to help you identify what your go-to self-doubt mind trap is. Or in other words, what are your go-to behaviors that have become habits when you doubt yourself? We all have them. And you have to know this information in order to do something about it. So I put the link to the short quiz in the show notes for you below. Now, let's talk about what self-doubt really is. First, let's clear up what it is not. Self-doubt is not a feeling. I know, we all think self-doubt's a feeling. Fear and uncertainty are feelings. Doubting yourself is what you do when you feel fear, or you feel unworthy, or you feel uncertain. So you see, self-doubt is a habit. It's an action. And self-doubt, it keeps you very busy up in your head. I'm very, very busy right now, just so you know. You're very busy creating worst-case scenarios. You're busy overthinking. You're busy coming up with all the things that you think you need to do before you can do the thing that you know you want to or should do. Does that sound familiar? By reframing self-doubt as a habit, as an action, as a choice, guess what? You can stop it. You can replace the habit of self-doubt with another action. Isn't that great? Self-doubt is a decision. It's a choice. It's the decision to not try. Again, self-doubt is the decision to not try. It makes sense that if you want to be chipping away at your dreams, you have to make a new decision. You have to make a decision to try. One thing that I love this saying, if you have a problem that can be solved with action, you don't have a problem. This is a really important one. If you have a problem that can be solved with action, you don't have a problem. This goes back to our definition of self-doubt. It's the decision not to try. Every single problem that you have, whether you make the money that you want or your relationship isn't great, I guarantee you there is one or two actions that you know you should be doing that you are deciding not to do. So take my self-doubt around decorating. Instead of going back and forth, constantly changing my mind, I took action. I invited my good friend Eileen, who's known me forever and knows me so well, to join me for a meeting with a designer at a furniture store. I went armed with photos of the rooms and color swatches. And between the designer's expertise, the technology of being able to see my actual room laid out on the big screen, oh my gosh, it was wonderful, and Eileen's expertise in Carlene, she would say things like, don't you want something more personal than that on your wall? Or is that what you really want? I was able to make decisions. I was no longer in the space of, what if this is wrong? I no longer cared about if someone else liked it. It was more than enough that I loved it. Asking for support is a decision. Eileen didn't make the decisions. The designer didn't make the decisions. I did. But I really needed the guidance to trust my decisions. And that's okay, because it got me out of my head. It stopped all the hesitation. And I made confident decisions about chairs and fabrics and colors and rugs and artwork. And the weeks of self-doubt, they were finally gone. And I felt so relieved and excited for what I had created. But none of that would have happened if I stayed home staring at paint samples on my walls. I had to take action. So, when we are triggered by something like fear, uncertainty, past failures, insecurity, or maybe low self-worth, we then respond with one of these actions or behaviors or traps of self-doubt. So here's the 3 traps of self-doubt. Number 1 is hesitating. That's what I was doing. I was hesitating. Number 2 is hiding. And number 3 is being hypercritical. These are all big red flashing lights screaming at you that you are operating from the low vibe of fear. So let's unpack each of these. Okay, let's talk about hesitation. What happens with self-doubt is self-doubt triggers actions. And the first action that it triggers, and this is the first trap, it's hesitating, is what are the stupid things that you're doing, the funny things that you're doing, the embarrassing things that you're doing that are a form of hesitating. Hesitating is typically triggered by uncertainty. You feel uncertain about how something's going to happen. And so you start waiting. Doesn't that sound great? You start waiting. And you're really busy though, waiting. Hesitation is a very busy activity because you're up in your head and you're saying, now's not the time. It's not perfect yet. And you start to think about it all the time. You're thinking, I don't know. And you want your work to be perfect. Like there is a busyness to it, right? There's a pattern. It becomes a habit that this is the kind of energy that you have, that you feel uncertain about something. So you go straight upstairs in your head, and then you're really busy about what you're uncertain about, right? But you're hesitating. You're actively waiting. You're actively deciding not to do it. Let's say maybe you want to get a photography business going, and you spent hundreds of hours studying and practicing, but you're paralyzed when it comes to becoming a legitimate business, deciding if you really want to make it a career, and especially like taking money from people. Ooh, that's really uncomfortable. So we act on impulses and then we freeze and we don't follow through. And it's so frustrating because we know we're the problem. The harder we try, the more complicated we make everything. We're up here in our heads. We hesitate because we want the validation that this thing is actually going to work. Then it matters. When you hesitate, you're seeking validation. But my friend, validation only comes when you take action. Here's the riddle of all of this. You're seeking validation, but you're never going to get it by hesitating. The validation only comes when you become the kind of person that's willing to try over and over, because then you see evidence that you're the kind of person that starts a photography business, that you're the kind of person that writes the book. And so it's through the action, because you're proving to yourself that this is who you are, that gives you the validation. If you're hesitating, you want to change your behaviors. If you're waiting, do it now. Yes, now. Not at 2 p.m. or tomorrow or next week. Now. If you're overthinking, overthink what could go right instead of what could go wrong. And if you're wanting your work to be perfect, remember, good is gold and done is better than perfect. Okay, I know you're saying if it were that easy, you'd already be doing it. It is that easy. All you're thinking is making it hard. And in the words from one of my most favorite movies, Top Gun Maverick, don't think, just do. All right, moving on to the second trap of self-doubt, which is hiding, or in other words, avoidance coping. And it's triggered by fear. So how do we stop shrinking to avoid people, or being a chicken about money, or procrastinating? So hiding is when you shrink. And this one really blows when you see it. It really does. It's triggered by fear, and I don't know what fear, but it's fear. So if you were to step into your full potential and take on that new project at work, or just put your work out there, or you just share the idea that you have, but you can't because you're hiding. So an example of hiding is when you avoid people, and maybe you avoid phone calls. So if you have somebody that you need to talk to and you are hiding, you're avoiding them. If you have calls that you need to make and you're not making them because you're worried about how it's going to go, that's hiding. What happens again is it's triggered by fear or insecurity, and then the action is to shrink. The action is to avoid and to be silent. Maybe you're in a relationship and you're not happy. You just shut up and put up. This is a form of hiding. It's triggered by self-doubt. And the other form of hiding is procrastinating, because procrastinating is just avoidance. You're making up reasons to not move forward. Like, I can't sign on new clients until my website is done. That's 100% avoiding, 100% hiding. And I did this all the time when I first started my business. All the training and certifications, excuses to hide. All the technology I had to learn, excuses to hide. And it's sad when I look back on it, because a decade later, I can see that there were people who really needed the coaching support, but they couldn't find me. In fact, one of my clients shared that she wished she would have found me sooner. And I told her, well, that's not your fault. That was my fault. I was hiding. There was no way you could have found me sooner. So think about that. Think about what opportunities you're missing out on because you doubt yourself and you're making the choice to hide. Think about the people and connections you're missing out on because you're hiding. If you're hiding, try some of these things. If you're avoiding people or phone calls, raise your voice and make the call. If you're being silent, have the conversation. If you're being a chicken about asking for a raise or charging more for your services, ask for what you want and deserve. If you're procrastinating, use a starting ritual and work for 5 minutes. You do not have to hide anymore. Now, the third trap of self-doubt is being hypercritical. And more often than not, it's triggered by a past failure. If you've ever taken a risk, put yourself out there, or gotten burned, maybe someone criticized your work or your business flopped, or your idea didn't take off, you know what this feels like. And maybe the wound is still fresh, even if it's been years. And so instead of stepping forward again, you argue against yourself. You become your own harshest critic before anyone else can beat you to it. And if you're not this kind of person that's hypercritical, I guarantee that maybe there's somebody in your life like this. They have an excuse for everything. And it manifests itself by coming up with all the reasons why it's not going to work. Now, sometimes it isn't the right time. But if you're constantly arguing against yourself and you're just so sick of it, this is what being hypercritical is. When you focus on the reasons why you can't, it's called obstacle thinking. You're the kind of person that's grown into spotting the things that are wrong, spotting all the reasons why you can't and why you shouldn't. Imagine this. You have a big idea, a dream you've been sitting on, and you feel a flicker of excitement. But before you even take that first step, there's a voice in your head that chimes in and tells you, this is a bad idea. Or, you've tried before and it didn't work. Or, people are really going to think that you're ridiculous. Or, you're not even that good at this. So for some, this hypercritical voice isn't just about the idea, right? It's about themselves. Do you ever hear these? I never follow through. Why should I bother? I can't focus anyways. Or, I always mess things up. And this one is tricky because when you repeat these thoughts enough times, they start to feel like facts instead of just stories that you're telling yourself. And here's the thing that I really, really want you to hear, is your past does not predict your future. You get to decide your future. Remember, you have the choice to choose self-doubt or to choose taking another action other than self-doubt. So just because you struggled with something before, it doesn't mean that you're doomed to repeat the pattern. You can choose to change it. Let's talk about someone we all know, or maybe someone we are. I've had many clients over the years who have dreamed of starting their own business. They get excited about ideas, they make a plan, but then they stop. And they've spent months preparing only to talk themselves out of it because it probably wouldn't work anyway. They say things to themselves like, I never follow through. I get excited, then I lose steam. I should just accept that I'm not the kind of person who finishes things. But it turns out that their problem isn't that they never follow through. The problem is that they're afraid to fail. So they stop before they even give themselves a real chance. In coaching, they learned to rewrite that story. If they shifted from obstacle thinking, like I always give up, to opportunity thinking of I can practice consistency in small ways, things look very different. And it's with that new story where you are no longer the problem and instead you become the person that shows up consistently, that doesn't let your past dictate the here and now, that you are the person that can start a business. Let's talk about that obstacle thinking versus opportunity thinking. Here's the shift. When you're stuck in hypercriticism, you see all the reasons it won't work. That's called obstacle thinking. If you've ever caught yourself saying, I never follow through, I can't focus, I always mess things up, I want you to challenge those thoughts. And instead of seeing it as proof that you shouldn't try, ask yourself, what small thing could I follow through on today? Or what's one step I can focus on right now? Or what if mistakes are just part of figuring it out? How about what if this actually works? Or what if I just need one yes to change everything? Or what if I focus on getting a little better instead of being perfect? And what if I stop believing the story that says I'm not capable? It is all about the questions that you ask yourself. You are asking yourself the wrong questions. Change the questions, and you literally will change your life. So think about the last time you stopped yourself from trying something because you talked yourself out of it. Was it really a bad idea, or were you just afraid? What if instead of focusing on what could go wrong, you fixated on what could go right? You don't have to fight self-doubt by becoming this wildly confident person overnight. Like, that doesn't happen. You fight it by taking one small step forward, despite that voice in your head telling you otherwise. Let's sum up the 3 traps of self-doubt. Hesitation is about being all busy up in our heads. And hiding, it's us shrinking. And being hypercritical is about focusing on what can go wrong. So whichever self-doubt trap or traps are your go-tos, here are 3 questions to ask yourself to get you back in the game of your life, of your dreams, and of your potential. It's a very simple question. What are you afraid of? Seriously, worst case scenario. Go ahead, write it down. What is it? What are you afraid of? Then the next question I want you to ask yourself is, can I overcome that? Can you move past that if it were to happen? Can you course correct? Can you pivot? And then the next question is, can you make a new decision? You know what? Most decisions are not permanent. You can always make a new decision. I am giving you permission right now to go make a decision, have it not work out, and now you have permission to go make another new decision, right? So you have to realize that maybe it's not the right decision to get you to where you want to go. So you need to make a new one. We need to be in reality here. Worst case scenario is very unlikely. Now, if you're sitting here and you're going, Carleen, I have no idea how to answer those questions of, can I course correct? Can I overcome the worst case scenario? Then I want you to answer these next 2 questions because you have the answers. The answers are in your past. So the next question I want you to ask yourself was, when was a time that you've made a decision that didn't pan out and you were able to course correct? You were able to make a new decision. You were able to change gears. So think about the time that you made a decision and it didn't work out, but you were able to course correct. I want you to remember that because you probably might have to sit there for a few minutes because we don't remember our courageous moments. And that's what we're looking for right here. The next question is, when was a time where you were scared to make a decision and you made the decision anyways, and it was the right one and it got you to where you wanted to go? This is talking about taking action even though you're afraid. I guarantee you have done these things. You have been courageous somewhere in your life and you just haven't been paying attention to it. And once you have that information, now you can go back and answer the first set of questions about what are you afraid of and can you course correct? And the answer is definitely 100% yes, you can. So use your own past experiences as proof that you are capable. Fear doesn't get a vote. You can do hard things. You can do the uncomfortable thing because I guarantee you have done it before. You've simply never acknowledged those courageous moments. It is those moments that will get you off the fence, out of your head, and back to living your best life, whatever that means for you. So I wanted you to hear today, if you feel scared to make some big decisions in your life, that's very normal. The second thing I want you to hear is that you can't let fear stop you from making the decisions. So if you feel stuck in the decision, like you just can't make it, if you've been sitting on something for a long time, like should I quit that job? Should I get out of this relationship? Should I start this partnership? Should I say yes to this? Should I say no to that? Should I launch this product? Should I start this project? If you haven't made a decision, ask yourself, what are you afraid of? Action is the only thing that's going to get us to where we want to go. And fear is a low vibe. It has us playing small, and oftentimes it just stops us from making the decision altogether. And so normalizing the fear, asking yourself what you're afraid of, and getting brutally honest, and then asking yourself, can I overcome this if this were to happen, this worst case scenario? Because sitting on the sidelines, you're never going to get the information you need. You're never going to get the feedback you need to get to where you want to go. So I'd rather see you make 3 wrong decisions until you make the right one to get to where you want to go versus still sitting on the sidelines, not even in the game. But you have to be willing to live in the discomfort. And the more uncomfortable you get, my friend, the bigger results you'll see by the end of the year. And by uncomfortable, I mean not knowing the answer all the time and being okay with that. Guessing what the right decision might be and moving forward anyway. Looking foolish, messing up publicly. Feeling as though you don't have the answer, so you're feeling a little incompetent. That's normal, being in the discomfort. All of that. If you're willing to be there, you cannot lose. So I wanted to share this with you today because I have been making some decisions based on fear. I've let the old habit of self-doubt become my default again, even on the little things. And I don't have all the answers, but I do have choices. And I get to choose the action of self-doubt, like hesitating, hiding, and being hypercritical. I can choose that. Or I get to choose to take one small, uncomfortable step. So if you're not sure what your go-to self-doubt trap is, head to the show notes to take the 3-minute quiz that will help you uncover it and give you practical steps to start choosing something different for yourself. And again, thank you for tuning in today.
I love spending time with you here. And if today's episode sparked something for you, I'd love to hear about it. Leave a review, share it with a friend, or come chat with me on Instagram. And thank you so much for tuning in. And your dreams are waiting for you. Your time is now. And I can't wait to see you in the next episode. Oh, and one more thing. This is the legal language. You know, the stuff that the lawyers put together, and they say that I need to read this to you. So here we go. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. I'm just your friend. I'm not a licensed therapist. This podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professionals. Got it? Good. I will see you in the next episode.